everyone. It is exactly for 3 p.m. Central Time. We will wait for 1 or 2 more minutes until everybody that wants to participate join. So just allow us a few more minutes to get more participants on board, and we will be starting. Okay, well, we have already 35 participants attended, so hopefully more people will join this interesting webinar. And the topic today, as everybody knows, is retention, unlocking players' loyalty in iGaming. As we all know, involved in the iGaming industry, the retention is the critical point nowadays with the increased competition, with the increased acquisition costs, and as well as the rising wave of restricting advertising in many countries. So retention and keeping the customers loyal to the brand and to the operator is becoming more and more important. I have the pleasure to introduce our distinct panelists today, and going from left to right on my screen. First, I would like to introduce Dobry Kereteliev, who is the head of CRM in the company Rise the Bet. Dobry has worked in the gaming industry since 2017, holding various positions during this time. As years passed and he gained experience, Dobry became more and more interested in understanding the dynamics and challenges in the gaming industry. And so he decided to pursue a career in the marketing field. Having occupied different roles has given him the opportunity to adjust his perspective depending on the ongoing needs of the project he is dealing with. Next to him is Alexis Bison. He has a background in esports, computer science, sports betting, and over 12 years working in the iGaming with a focus on casinos. Actually, very interesting. Today, he is the co-founder and CEO of Unibo, a company that is bringing real-time gamification to iGaming. And we're very anxious to hear his points on the gamification tools in the iGaming and retaining the customers. Unibo is a software development company dedicated to creating the most extensive, innovative, and user-friendly gamification and promotional solutions for players, providers, and operators in the iGaming. Unibo adds a layer of excitement and engagement for players that is unparalleled and is proven to dramatically increase core metrics such as engagement, turnover, repeat visits, and retention. And we all know really that these sort of tools nowadays are becoming more and more critical, and the technology use implemented is gaining more prevalence in the competitive environment. And next to him is Neil Tabone. Neil is actually head of commercial in Banco Digital Limited. Neil is known for his expertise in commercial strategy, retention, and gamification, cultivated through his tenure in the online casino industry. His career is marked by achievement rooted in practical and sustainable solutions that drive growth and resonate with the audience. With a knack of optimizing commercial strategies, leading the diverse teams synergetically and enhancing customer lifetime value, Neil thrives on redefining success in the digital realm. He sets a reliable standard for excellence, navigating the dynamic landscape with authenticity and innovative thinking. And now, actually, I'm really anxious to open the discussion and give the word to everyone for their opening presentation. Later, we will go and do a round of Q&A questions. So, Dobry, would you like to take the lead in the opening?
Certainly. Firstly, I would like to thank you, Rossi, for the nice introduction, and thank my co-panelists for joining, and thank everybody as well of the attendees. It is a pleasure for me to attend the seminar, and hopefully we will be able, through a nice discussion, to deliver some nice insights into the ever more interesting journey of retention. As we all know, it's a difficult industry, an industry that requires a lot of creative thinking outside of the box, working with different regulations, with different bodies, making sure that we are compliant across multiple countries and entities is a big challenge. As a few of the topics that I decided to talk on, I will just quickly touch base, and then we'll open the discussion. So, first and foremost, what are the challenges that we're facing with advertisement as part of the retention strategies? So, firstly, understanding the demographic is one of the key areas. I'm sure that everybody will agree. Analyzing the demographic data such as age, gender, location, gaming preferences, we as platform providers, as service providers, can tailor our advertising strategies to resonate with in each individual segment. As we all know, targeted advertisement can be crafted to address unique needs based on market, based on regulatory requirements, based on behaviors, which will ensure that the promotional messages are relevant and engaging, and most importantly, compliant. Utilizing the insights, the experience that we've gained, platforms can optimize ad placements across various channels and platforms frequented by our target audience, by the markets. Moreover, understanding the demographic will allow us also to customize rewards, incentives, and loyalty programs to suit the preferences and motivations of different segments, again, in different markets and in different regulations. And through continuous innovation, we highlight the role of innovation in our sector. It's getting more and more competitive. We have to stay about one step above the competition, introducing new features, games, technological advancements. The second point that I'm keen on discussing is promoting trustworthiness and accountability. As I said, it is an ever tightening industry, and building a strong brand image rooted in trustworthiness and accountability is essential for fostering our player loyalty and retention in the industry. Advertisements can emphasize on platforms' commitment to transparency, to fairness, to responsible gaming practices. This is a common denominator across all major European markets, as well as the rest of the world markets, highlighting testimonials, reviews from trusted partners and satisfied players is one of the most successful and best practices that we also can take advantage of. Additionally, our campaigns can communicate the platform's dedication to player protection, to responsible gaming, proactive support to problem gaming, positioning the brand as a responsible and socially conscious operator within the industry. Rossi, I believe you're muted.
Yes, thank you. I was muted. So thank you so much for the two important topics that you would like to tackle in our discussion. Maybe Neil, you can take over with the topics you see as most relevant for the retention and introduce the point that you think should lay under in our discussion.
Yes, thank you, Rossi. Thank you for the introduction, and just want to say I'm happy to be here with the rest of the panelists for this webinar today. So in my experience and actual job experience, I mean, retention has always been a very strong driving part of the way I work. It's the key way that we make our customers' acquisition channels profitable by retaining those players and making sure they are loyal to the brands. They keep playing with us to the point that we make the most out of the relationship we have with our players as well as our partners and suppliers. Two of the points that I want to talk about today would be one of them creating a community or using community to create social engagement, to drive retention. In this, I mean kind of getting your players to kind of actually play together in ways that give them some version of partnership together where they feel like they are one whole community playing online together that will drive retention and keep them active together as a base. And then another point I would like to talk about is significance of regional and cultural localization when we're enacting global retention strategies to make sure that we are always taking into account who we are talking to, not just copying over the same strategies we have from one market to another or one region to another, but really understanding the player that is receiving the communication or receiving the promotional content, who is logging into your site, and making sure that based on their expectation and their community's expectation, they are receiving the service that they're really hoping for.
Thank you so much, Neil. Very interesting topics. You're absolutely right. The cultural specifics, the localization play a key role, and the market varies. So operators that have international coverage and international reach should really be conscious about this topic. So Alexis, would you please take over with the topics that you consider should be touched in our discussion?
Yes, thank you for the introduction, and definitely coming from a computer science background and a product background and development background, I would like to talk more about kind of the functionalities that are available on iGaming sites. We have seen historically that iGaming as a whole lack a little bit in innovation, at least if we compare it to the innovation we've seen in the gaming or mobile gaming or the computer gaming. So discussing emerging trends and how we can see what we see that the future of functionality when it comes to player retention in iGaming is a key point. Then I'd also like to split into, well, Neil touched upon it a little bit, but also like the softer reasons why players stay with certain brands, whether that's fast payments, good support, VIP handling, how you can work around making sure that you cover all of those bases and make sure that players want to stay with your brand because of just, you're delivering an excellent service. It's easy to function, and people will always have problems, and when they have problems, they have a reason to leave. But if you can save them when they're thinking about leaving by providing a good support or a great VIP handling, then you can keep them, and then that will likely make them stay even longer than they previously thought they would. So problems for players aren't always a bad thing if you can handle them in a good way and make sure that players feel that you will be by their side when they have any issues, and you will be actually on their side, hopefully, when they have any issues. But those are the two key areas I'd like to talk about. So,
well, that sounds really interesting. So, by listening to three of you, you really have covered a lot from really advertising and reaching out to different demographics, structuring campaigns, going through opportunity to structure your marketing strategy and retention strategy with different tactics, including social gaming versus the traditional social engagement versus the traditional retention tools, as well as involving technology and technology tools, as well as customer support and service as key drivers to really make the player feel like he's valued in the operators platform. So let's open maybe with the demographics, and this actually runs across all of the questions and topics that you would like to cover. So maybe we can start with this, and each one of you should feel free to add to the rest of the already touch points, so I don't have to switch and give the way to each one of you. Dobry, if you would like, you can dive into the demographics and really the segmentation of customers when you run and structure your advertising campaign.
Happily. So let's start off with a market that everybody's familiar with, all of us are familiar with, and let's just put a bigger umbrella over it, call it the European market. If we think about the European market, there really isn't one golden bullet that will solve all of your marketing and advertising dilemmas, for sure. So here is where the really tight understanding of your demographic actually kicks in. And it's not only about understanding the demographic, but what you are allowed to convey to the demographic, and more specifically by whom you're allowed, and all of the different regulations that you have to go by. And there's a plethora of examples, starting from, let's say, the Italian market, where the ADM is controlling the entirety of the advertising efforts. For example, there we all know that TV, radio, websites are prohibited to actively promote and advertise between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Advertising there must be transparent, non-deceptive, promote responsible gaming. So what do I mean by that? My strategy for Italy could never include misleading messages. It must be clear. It must be straight to the point. I am not. So this is one of the clearer examples. Then we have markets that are even more tightly regulated in terms of how you can actually bonus the players, which will really highly impact the way that you advertise your campaigns. Take, for example, Sweden or Germany, where in both markets we have really tight regulations on how customers are allowed to be bonused. We're talking about yearly regulations of 100 euros for the players in Germany. So think about that challenge as how we can advertise around that, because this is really important. Think about Sweden, where we are only able to bonus a player once at the beginning of their welcome journey. So how do we build retention on that? I think that this is a really interesting discussion, and I would gladly hear what Neil and Alexis have to build on that, and also, share some of my thoughts on it as well.
Sure, I can jump in first, and then maybe Dee can take over. I think specifically Sweden, being Swedish myself, coming from when they created a new regulation in 2019, end of 2019, it was interesting how they went created this big rule that you're not allowed to give any bonus or promotion after the first deposit from the players. Obviously, a lot of the players prior to the regulation coming in had been used to playing in an MGA environment where bonusing was quite, and still is quite, you can get almost any bonus you want at certain points. And if you're a big VIP, you would have received VIP trips, you would have received VIP bonuses, or a lot of other things that now suddenly would never be available as well. We see that the Swedish regulation has quite a significant problem when it comes to channelization. Maybe it's because of that, maybe it's because of other things, but in online casino in particular, we're seeing varying statistics around anywhere between 55 and 70% channelization. So that means that 55 to 70% of the players are playing within the regulation, and then obviously then 30 to 45% of the players are playing outside of the regulation. So creating regulation which actually provides the players with what they need or what they want, what they feel they want. I mean, if you're buying things in a shop and you're repeatedly going to the same shop, at one point you're probably expecting that you would get some sort of loyalty program for giving that shop your repeat business, because otherwise, why would you keep going there? It's almost weird that the Swedish regulation have been so hard on this topic. But we can see that other regulations, particularly during the COVID, implemented deposit limits and other sort of limitations that really hampered online businesses of many regulated partners, be it Belgium, Finnish, Netherlands. A lot of areas implemented limits and bonus and limits that could be pushed a lot of players toward the black market when they maybe it's better that they should have stayed in the white market instead. Neil?
Yeah, thank you, Alexis. So I can draw back to much earlier in my career when the UK GC was introduced, with the UK regulations being what they were. I think when we're talking specifically around advertising within the restrictions, it's very important to have a proper understanding of what you are allowed to do to communicate things to your players in a transparent and trustworthy way, and make sure that you're not stepping past certain lines that the regulations put in place. Unfortunately, the reality is, especially when the regulations are adopted in the early stages, there are a lot of gray areas where you don't fully understand maybe the wording of certain regulations or what is the limit on certain advertising limits that you can do and cannot do. So there is a level of interpretation that you need both a skilled lawyer or skilled legal team and skilled advertising teams to come together and try and understand what is the best way to communicate with your player base without upsetting anyone from a regulatory point and injuring your brand identity from a regulatory point. It's something that you have to do with caution and definitely without being too eager to test the boundaries of the regulators, but with the full understanding that we need to make sure the regulators are kept accountable for clarity within their own rules, that we get the understanding as operators on how best to do our job, how best to engage our players without potentially upsetting regulatory boards and obviously incurring fines or worse penalties.
Well, apparently regulators are putting more and more challenges. Regulators are putting more and more challenges to the operators in terms of really attracting and later on retaining customers. As already you discussed, the advertising restrictions, as well as after that the traditional retention strategies with bonuses, free games, that in some countries already are restricted or have some heavy limitations. As you already mentioned, this might drive the black market, which obviously is not the best, but nevertheless, that's the reality. And operators need to think of creative tactics to go around that and work with their customers. So maybe Neil, you can go a little bit more over the different dynamics of the different engagement strategies that go above and beyond these traditional instruments that many of the operators have used throughout the years.
Yes, thank you, Rossi. So yeah, one of the topics that I mentioned earlier was using community building and social engagement to drive retention. So probably one of the earliest forms of that in our industry would be gaming streamers. Obviously, they get quite a following behind them, which then traditionally we use as acquisition channels. Though nowadays that's evolving further within particularly the streamer revenues, but also in how we engage players as a community on our website. So to talk about streamers for a moment, it does end up being a community of players watching someone playing against the big casino with all the money, hoping that he wins. And they, even though they have no financial backing within this streamer, watching him win gives them satisfaction to the point where they feel some of that joy themselves. There are emerging tools nowadays that let players engage alongside the streamers. To name a few, would be the play together function, live spins. Those are the ones that come to mind immediately, wherein the player can actually bet alongside the streamer with their own balance. And whenever the streamer wins, they also partake in the win, which is a great added element to streaming itself. But then even when you look at some of the more modern sites online, the fact that you have community chats available on sites, giving the players a sense of community there, that they work together, communicate together, they share their wins. I think the earlier versions of that would be when we displayed players' wins on site, still a very common practice. But now we get the opportunity to allow players to share their own wins and revel in the fact that they won something together. I guess, originally would have been more common in live casino games, where players have their common sections that they can join in together and celebrate wins, or just have open discussions even about the game going on, or back and forth with the dealers. But nowadays we see more of that actually hosted on the gaming websites themselves. What better place to have a community conversation than with the people on the same website as you, experiencing the exact same product and exact same services as you. I think it creates a very good sense of camaraderie there, where the players feel that as part of a community, they're much more likely to return. They don't necessarily get anything directly back from being part of a group chat or an ongoing conversation in the ways of winnings or bonus values or anything like this that are the traditional sense of what you would give a player to retain them. But feeling to be part of something gives them a deeper sense of belonging that kind of drives their personal online identity in tandem with a brand. So as part of a recognized community member, they'll be more conscious of the fact if they were missing from that particular environment, and more likely to go back there to rejoin and be part of that group.
Well, that is a really very interesting point, which actually brings the thought that iGaming is getting closer to some of the tools provided by the social gaming platforms, as well as some of the community feel and, as you mentioned, belonging to a social group similar to the land-based experience. So this actually underlines the importance of interaction. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on the live streaming experiences, and possibly touch the topic about the localization and importance of localization for all of the iGaming areas, including the live streaming.
Absolutely. So, when talking about localization, we do have quite a two-dimensional practice in a lot of places in iGaming right now, where it's just kind of what's the top game in this market, what's the top sport in this market, and make sure that the players from that market can see that, which that is probably the very first and most basic level of localization, as well as obviously hosting the local language, the local currency, and all these other facets. But again, that is just face value, in my opinion. You really need to go much deeper into it to understand on even a community level what those players are expecting. So any practices we do or anything we present people that would work, let's say, in the wider scope of a European market would not translate well to a South American market, being that, yes, we can identify that the most popular sport in the given market is football. So let's present them with football, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be enough to get players on site and keep active. I think we need to go deeper than that and really take a look at how those players interact with the product and what the difference is between that player's expectation and a European player's expectation. Both will obviously like the same sport, maybe football or basketball or whatever it might be. But the leagues are expecting are then a further level of localization that we need to understand. And then even further than that, what are, for example, the average bet levels that these players are doing? If we're offering them, let's say we're in a market where we can offer them bonuses, for example, if we're offering them bonuses, are we being realistic about what that customer's affordability is? In Europe, we might say, yeah, 20 to 50 euros deposit is fine, absolutely affordable. But in some of these other markets, the economy doesn't work the same. It's much lower value. So if we were to offer 20 euros for them, that's kind of what maybe they might be willing to pay in an entire month as opposed to for their weekly betting allowance. So we need to really dive in and make sure that we understand the communities we're active in, especially when we have a global marketing strategy, that we are localizing each aspect of our retention efforts to those markets. If you're going to be regularly presenting a player with a promotion that they are either not economically at the level to engage with, or it's not necessarily the exact league or product that they are interested in, you're going to lose a lot of players along the way, and that creates a retention strategy. So one of the things that we need to do is start leveraging the data we have and the data we can obtain from certain services to understand better and build a portfolio of players, build a player profile that we can now understand who we are targeting and make sure that we understand the player, we understand the people that are receiving our emails, our SMSs, that are logging into their accounts, and make sure that we are catering towards their needs and expectations on not necessarily an individual level, because that can be quite challenging, but at least on a regional level to make sure that when we are sending an email out, if we do want to send it to both let's say, Swedish player and a Brazilian player, that we're sending them at times that locally make sense to them, that we're using the language that they want to hear. The email is either as long or as short as they want it to be, and we're talking to them in the language that they want to be spoken to, not only on an actual national language level, but the type of phrasings that people use to really let them know that we're their peers, that we want to give them what they want.
Thank you, Neil. Alexis, maybe if you would like to add something more on this point related to the social engagement as well as the localization. And I'm sure that you coming from a IT and computer background with the development of the platform, gamification platform that you're offering, you have a lot built in to answer those particular needs that players might use and operators might utilize in their retention strategy.
Yes, I mean, definitely. I think historically we've seen a lot of a lot of social engagement and social community building. I think video or online bingo was one of the key areas in the beginning that had a lot of social features where players could chat, and they had moderators creating chat games, and the players would play in bingo. And in reality, those players would play, they would have their bingo running, but they would play online gaming casino on the side. They would in general put 80% of the revenue coming from casino and 20% of the revenue coming from the bingo. So these players would think of themselves as bingo players, but in reality, being part of that community, they generated a lot of revenues in other products as well. And I think the community itself is something that really kept them on the site. They kept back. They wanted to talk to the same kind of people. They logged in at the same time as other people, and they wanted to talk to their friends that they had made on the platform. And I think, obviously, when it comes to localization, it's very key that you have specific chat rooms, or in the case of online streaming, that you have localized streamers for each and every market that you're focusing your presence on, so you can really tap into that value of not being an international market, but rather being then a Brazilian market or a Italian market, or whatever market you're focusing on. Really go deep into the localization there, specifically when you want to open up for chat rooms and other social engagement. Because if you have too many different um, nationalities in one chat room, you're probably going to dilute the value of that chat room and not going to get the same sort of discussions going on in those chat rooms. So functionality around utilizing your online streamers to the maximum extent is probably an area you really want to focus on.
Well, maybe you can tell us a little more about other gamification tools that could be utilized in the retention, and also nowadays is becoming more and more prevalent the talk about using AI and also data science into our strategies to attract and to retain customers. So why don't you give us your view on these opportunities?
Definitely, I think iGaming is one of the. It's still a new market. I mean, it's been probably running for 15, 20 years now, depending on where you define the beginning of online gambling. But in many areas, it's very, very youthful market or industry still. And I think looking at what we've seen other industries in our area, like gaming, normal mobile gaming or computer gaming, we see that in the beginning of an industry, they all produced games. Everyone produced the same kind of games. They were similar games. They were shoot 'em ups. There were other games. We have, as comparative in iGaming, we have video slots. Then we had video slots with 3x3 reels. Then it was 3x5 reels. Then it started being deeper and deeper bonus games. Then suddenly we have infinite reels, we have mega waves, we have other kind of waves. Then we move into crash games. So we have this evolution of different kinds of games. But there are many companies nowadays, probably 300 plus game studios producing all of these games. Many of the operators that work in this industry will have on their sites anywhere between 5 and 15 or even 20,000 games that you can play from the lobby. So obviously there is a very plethora of games that you can choose from as a player, and as an operator, your competitors are offering the same things. So you're probably looking to add another layer on top of those games to make it more interesting for those players to play on your site rather than playing the same games on another site. Often this is, or historically this is has been done by offering better bonuses, offering better VIP handling, giving VIP bonuses, giving cash back, or if we're talking about poker, we're talking about higher and higher rake back for players. So giving more and more money back to the players. If we look at what mobile games and other gaming has done, they've introduced their own kind of loyalty currencies where you can buy skins, so you can buy other sort of things inside the games that makes it more fun for players to play the game, or opens up new features in the game and so on. So basically you'll have daily quests or daily missions in various games where you have to say you have to play one game, you have to win a game, you have to win a game with more than 15 kills or something like that. And that's something that we've seen is coming in iGaming now as well. Give the players, instead of rewarding players for making things that they generally don't want to do, like give them a deposit bonus, you tell the player you'll have to make a deposit. Not something the players always want to do, but of course the players realize they have to do it in order to play, or rewarding them for losing, as in cashback, which is something that definitely players don't want to do. You can reward players instead for playing the games or winning in the games. So you'll give them daily missions where they have to play certain games, win in certain games, win over a certain amount of your bets and so on. You can give them tournaments where they play against each other so they can prove that they are better than all the other players on the site, and other tools around that makes it more interesting for players to play the games that they could play anywhere. They can choose to play on your site. So I think those are the kind of areas that we see coming now. And I hope in the future we'll see a breakout in many more gamification and promotional tools that will open up for CRM teams and casino teams to be more creative and focus on providing more engaging monthly calendars for their players that makes the players want to come back to their site rather than looking for another site. Because when a player has, say, registered and maybe even KYC'd and sent in all the documentation at the sites, they rarely want to leave. So they want to make sure that the site that they're now playing at really has everything that they would want in their offering.
Very, very interesting. So both gamification tools together with the personal approach, as well as localization and social interaction, are becoming more and more prevalent in the iGaming environment nowadays. Tell me, what do you think about AI? Is it a topic that is overly exposed nowadays, or really we can use the algorithms of artificial intelligence that exist nowadays to their level of development in order to make our operation better?
I think right now offering or AI can help with a lot of things for a lot of companies. It can help with content creation. It can help with especially with development and coding, and it can help produce things quicker. I don't think it's currently at a state where you can deliver something to the end user right away. It has to be cultured along the way, curated, as you would say, and you can create the basis of something and then make it better before you present it to the end user. And I think going forward that the CRM handling and making sure that the right customer gets the right offer at the right time, you would say, is something that AI can definitely help with. AI is great at taking in a lot of data and calculating and utilizing that data in the best case, and telling you what you should do with that data and what you should give to based on that data. But we still need a lot of humans to be able to tell the AI which data they should be looking at and how it should be looking at the data to some extent, and then also decide what to do with whatever you get out of the AI. So right now, I think we can use it for a lot of things in our day-to-day business, content generation, development, and so on. But I think it's not right there yet to present it fully to the end user to openly use it as they wish.
Geoffrey, maybe you as really working more on the CRM side, can tell us more about the use and utilization of different AI tools in your daily practice, as well as you brought up the topic of trustworthiness and really underlined the question of being responsible to your players. How do you utilize the AI and different tactics into really working on the retention and building trustworthiness for the players?
Thank you for giving me the word. I agree with Alexis that AI is at a stage where it is massively helpful, but on the other hand, I also think that it is still not quite the product that we as backhand CRM users can fully take advantage of. Something that Neil and myself actually touched base a bit earlier on um, was placing the right content in front of the right in front of the right audience, and this has been done and is still being done mostly by the human hand. Of course, we have some automations that help us in order to better analyze the data, but I think that the future of AI, and especially on the back end, is should strongly focus on allowing even more in-depth analysis in order to understand the player, each and every segment, each and every movement of the player to the best extent possible, and therefore allow us to place our content in the most efficient way, because after all, we're all dealing not only with regulations, we're dealing with very tight budgets, and I believe that all of you will agree that business expenditure is one of the main priorities, and this is one of the areas that I think AI will most positively impact in the future. Now, with regards to promoting trustworthiness and accountability, um, I don't believe that AI is there yet. And this is something that really does rely on the human touch, and is something that I myself and the team that I work with are really passionate about. And it's, as I said, it is exactly the connection that you establish between the operator, between the casino and the end user. Promoting yourself in the most fair, in the most transparent way is key to building a strong relationship, and therefore ensuring that retention rates are greater and greater. As I said, AI isn't there to help us with that. So with that, we rely on the incredible customer support that we can provide, on the incredible journey that the user can face, in the way that we advertise our services as socially responsible, making sure that we use the correct language to ensure that players are players are feeling safe in our product. So I think that this is an area where AI is lacking. But then again, I don't think that this is the main benefit that we can take advantage of.
Well, I don't want to miss any of the points that you wanted to raise, and also we have some Q&A pending here. So just to make sure that we cover all of the topics that you raised, I'm glad you mentioned customer support. And Alexis, I believe that in your opening points, you mentioned that the importance of great customer support, of quick withdrawals, of VIP service is really also extremely important in the retention. Maybe each one of you can elaborate a little bit more on that as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, and if players will have problems, there are going to be problems. We're working with computers and software. It's never going to be perfect, probably, even if you use other softwares like billion-dollar companies like Fortnite or Netflix. You're going to have bugs. There are going to be problems, and you are probably as a player or a user going to contact the support. If you have a very hard to get to support, and I can talk from my own experience. I tried to change one of my Excel subscriptions on Microsoft.com. I had an extremely hard time changing it, and I tried to contact support, and I basically went through a loop of different pages and in the end, I canceled my credit card, which was a virtual credit card, so it was quite easy, rather than trying to turn off the subscription. It's sometimes it's impossible to use people's tools to reach the support and the help that you need. And sometimes, and this is something I think we really need to think about when it comes to online gambling, because when you have 100 plus different providers of different games on your site, there are going to be some days that some providers are having issues, and you need to be able to provide the support that the players want. Maybe you have a stuck game round, maybe you have a pending withdrawal, maybe you have anything else. As long as the support is there to help you and deliver the information you need as soon as possible, then you will be happy with the knowledge that at least someone is helping you. At least there's someone that's doing something that might help you in the long term, and you will get your problem solved, right?
So human interaction is critical still, and this gets back to Neil's point about the social engagement belonging to some community in terms of obviously games and marketing efforts, but as well as customer service. Because we as humans can really relate to the human response. So let's go to the Q&A session, because I have here in front of me really some very interesting questions, and maybe we can start with Neil. Please take the freedom to answer, but let's not elaborate too much because our session is coming to an end, and the questions here really are very interesting. So, what are the key challenges iGaming operators face in retaining player loyalty today? Neil?
Could you just repeat the question, please, Rossi?
What are the key challenges iGaming operators face in retaining player loyalty nowadays?
Yeah, I think we did touch on it very well right now. It is trustworthiness, I think, is one of the biggest words there, that players can understand that they come on site and at the end of the day, they are investing money into our product. So they need to feel secure in the fact that when they do put money in, that they're going to play with it, they're going to have the experience they want. Obviously, that isn't always going to be winning, but the player needs to enjoy themselves and have a non-frustrating time with that. They need to make sure that the product works. The games they want to play are there for the most part, at least. And when they're transitioning from one part of the site to another, they're having a more seamless experience. And then when they do win, that they're not met with another wall where we try to verify them or take too long with that process. When they are investing money into us, we are also willing to give that money back when it is due to them. But yeah, that's a matter of understanding the experience the player wants again. And yeah, onto what Alexis said, when there are difficulties or misunderstandings, whether it's from the player side or the product isn't working the way that they expect it to, that they have a way to get an immediate response. The quickest way, obviously, is always making sure that you have enough FAQs on site for the player to find that information themselves. But then when they can't, make sure that they can get connected to someone who has that information as quickly as possible, and that person is knowledgeable, polite, and helpful.
Well, it's very interesting you mentioned the seamless user experience, because this takes us directly to the next question, which actually three of you can try to maybe answer from a different aspect. How do you balance between providing the seamless user experience and ensuring responsible gaming practices?
I think I can start with that. The quickest and most straightforward answer to that question is ensure that your site is as easy to understand as possible. As Neil said, at the end of the day, the customer is investing in this casino, investing to have some fun, to spend some funds with us. The last thing that they expect is for us to make them go through hoops in order to, let's say, withdraw. The instant joy that the average user is going to feel from a win, a nice win, is immensely brought down if you have an incredibly hard withdrawal journey, and it's something that is a common practice, unfortunately, and something that we strive toward is to ensure that we provide this easy and intuitive journey to the customer, which again is also a really good practice when talking about responsible gaming as well. Don't hold off the funds. Allow the user to have full access to their financials. Allow them to control their fate and how they interact with the product.
Okay, well, Alexis, I have an interesting question for you that relates to technology. What emerging trends or technologies do you think will be shaping the future of player retention in iGaming?
Yeah, I think I touched on that already when I was speaking, but definitely I think AI long term will do something, but as we mentioned, it's not doing something directly to player retention right now. I think that more using real-time data to create a real-time information for players to have tools around, promotional tools that are adding extra value to the gameplay itself, whether that's loyalty currencies, whether that's player shops, whether that's missions, tournaments, jackpots, these kind of things around the games that makes it more fun to play the games itself. We've seen a lot of providers utilizing these tools to make sure that operators promote their games themselves. You have Chromatic Plays, Drops and Wins. You have Red Tiger Gaming that was early with the daily jackpots. You have many other examples such as Yggdrasil's Boost technology. Quickspin has gamification as well. Many of our bigger providers that have the experience have provided different kinds of tools, but I think that operators are looking for tools that you can use where it doesn't look and feel like it's the providers themselves that's created this, and it's rather a part of the operator sites themselves.
Well, we have quite a few questions related to responsible gaming. Apparently, this topic is gaining speed and very interesting for a lot of the operators, as we see a current trend of talking more and more about responsible gaming, about players' addiction, about restriction on advertising. So I'm not sure who wants to take the lead of a question that is asking. How often do you think that a loyal player equals to a person who is a gambling addict?
I can jump on that one. So ideally, obviously, in no situation would you ever consider a gambling addict a loyal player. In general, when you talk about addiction, these aren't really the kind of players that I would say most of us want to attract, because it is a matter of dumping a lot of money into the casino in one single instance, playing beyond their affordability, getting frustrated and leaving, creating issues for us internally within the support team, where they receive the frustration of the customer, where us from a point as a business, we don't have a returning player because they won't be coming back once they have that kind of experience. What we should be looking for is more what I would say are habitual players. So people who come in regularly to play at their kind of regular intervals, whether it's right after payday because they have a little bit more liquid cash, or just they play once a week on Fridays to unwind. I'd equate it to kind of like working in catering in a bar, you don't want an alcoholic walking into your bar. You want your customer comes in once a week, every Friday, has a couple of beers, leaves a tip, a smile, and comes back next week to do the same thing. But there's a lot of ways we can try and you're never going to prevent an addict from playing, right? But you can create certain alerts on your site to keep an eye on at least the players that you understand their habits, and make sure whenever they are crossing certain lines based on their previous gameplay, that you have certain engagement tools that you can use to intervene with them, whether it's reality checks or even the RG or the support team reaching out to the player, question like, hey, we see you played a little bit more than you usually do. Just making sure that everything's fine, that you're having a good time, or just if you need anything. It's kind of to summarize, you need to just protect your players from themselves sometimes, and make sure that you have all the limits in place to identify whenever a problem pops up.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess most of the operators' platform, they have these monitoring tools already built in, and apparently paying particular attention to this. But let's jump to the gamification platforms. There is a question that is related to this. Can you share successful cases of using responsible gaming missions and tasks as part of the gamification strategy?
I mean, you could utilize if you want to push the players towards doing KYC, you want to push them to setting different limits, whether that be a deposit limit or a session time limit, as are the cases that are available through MJ. I think you can create missions around that as part of a welcome journey to make sure that the players feel a reason to set the deposit. And actually, it's not just about setting the limit itself, it's about making the players think about it, making the players consider, what do I want, how much do I want to spend, when do I think that I shouldn't spend anymore, because we know that it's very easy to deposit many times in a row and chase your losses and feel that if I just make one more deposit, I'm going to win everything back. And sometimes that happens, but most of the times it does not happen. So if you have players that think more about their gameplay, you're probably going to make them feel like, if you have tools that are available for them that helps them limit their gambling when they feel that they are out of control to some extent, then you're probably, as Neil said, going to create more players that come back once a week, twice a week, play a little bit, and leave, and then come back again the next week, and so on. And that's really the kind of customer that you want, not someone who overutilizes your product, whether that's gambling or alcohol or candy or any other sort of different kind of product that's bad for you. Cigarettes, snuff, snus in Sweden. I mean, you have a lot of different things in society that can be fun and enjoyable for a short period of time, but becomes a very questionable and bad for you if you overutilize it, right?
So certainly gamification missions and strategies can be used really to pretty much promote the habitual use, but not really to push to gambling addiction. Dobry, I think that this is a good question maybe for you, because I want to run over all of the questions. We're running a little bit beyond our time limit, but want everybody to have answers to their questions. How important do you think personalized marketing and targeted promotions are increasing player loyalty?
Well, I think they're crucial. I think that if I were to go to a VIP and offer them 10 free spins, I think that that's the end of the journey right there. So, and everybody would agree with that. Understanding and knowing your customers is the most crucial part of retention. Making sure that, of course, they are not only well bonused, but also made to feel well within your product is what is going to ensure the retention rates to stay up and actually increase over time. But I also think that providing the user with the option to control their, let's call it fate, in the casino is an effective tool. And this also touches base on the emerging trends of the future of the casino and the gaming industry. So allowing the player to interact with different features, allowing them to, let's say, use the buy bonus games, ensure that you offer a rich and wide array of services, so that everybody's needs are met.
Well, thank you so much. I have a comment that actually also we can go around and around with different interesting ideas as well as brainstorm on different strategies, because some of the questions here are related to sharing some successful examples of innovative strategies used to enhance player retention in iGaming. But I have here a comment that probably is based on some of the thoughts that you shared, that for retention purposes, one of our attendees says that he liked the idea of small profit sharing with the losing customers. So this is something that apparently is interesting point, and I'm sure that operators can put some thoughts into this. In order to close, one sentence from each one of you. How do you see the future of retention and working with customer loyalty in the future in iGaming?
I can start. I would say that, one sense, and I think that technology will bring a lot more tools for the CRM teams and the casino teams to use in order to retain their customers and create more engaging things for the customers, engaging experiences for the customers.
I think that
so you bet on technology, Dobry?
Yes. I would also like to go over technology as well. I think that the future will allow us to expand into building a community, especially as there are more and more technologies emerging around the virtual reality realm. So building this community where players can even more tightly communicate with one another and feel even a bigger part of a community once you put on your headset and you're able to sit in the lobby with the other players and directly interact with them. I think that this is one of the main areas that we're going to see massive and vast improvement in.
Neil?
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think what we're going to see in the future is more people leveraging their data, both real time and historical, to give players more automated journeys and experiences based on all of the different demographics that they fall into, to really give them that true kind of one-to-one personalized iGaming journey.
Well, very interesting. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your expertise, your thoughts, your experiences, and hopefully everything that we discussed today will be useful and helpful to our attendees. Looking forward to our next sessions, and wishing you a successful month of April ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot for moderating, Rossi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rossi, as well.